Um, Sam Thompson, Little Island Books, Kate, everyone who's joining us tonight, welcome to Belfast and welcome to No Alibis Bookstore. My name is David Torrance. Um, this is the very first time I have ever done a Zoom interview, so we'll see how that goes. And it's also the very first time I have ever interviewed Sam for a children's book. So I'm just briefly going to introduce everyone and the book itself. Wolfstongue by Sam Thompson is published by Little Island Books. Sam has previously written novels and short stories for adults, but tonight we are celebrating the publication of his first book for younger readers. Sam will read very shortly from Wolfstongue, but first, Sam, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi David. Yeah, it's my first time doing a Zoom book launch as well, and it's yeah, it's strange, isn't it? But it's great to be doing it. Yeah, so as you say, I've written a couple of books for grown up readers, and a few short stories as well. I live in Belfast. I live just up the road from No Alibis Bookshop,
Yeah.
and I teach writing at Queen's University in Belfast. What can I tell you? Actually, let me show you this. One of my most exciting short story writing experiences was writing a short story for this anthology, which is published by No Alibis. So I just wanted to mention that, David.
It's a lovely piece of merchandising there. Thank you, Sam.
No, it's an amazing anthology of short stories. But yes, I want to I'll tell you. Shall I tell you a little bit about Wolfstongue?
Please do.
So Wolfstongue is it's a fantasy adventure novel about a boy called Silas who discovers that there is a hidden world where animals speak, and he encounters a wolf and is drawn into a kind of escape attempt because he discovers that in the world of animals, the foxes rule. In the world of speaking animals, the foxes rule because the foxes are the best speakers. They can persuade and trick all the other animals into doing as they want with their clever language, and the wolves are their slaves. And Silas befriends a wolf called Isengrim and is drawn into his attempt to escape from the foxes, and that's what the book's about.
I think it's wonderful the way the book starts, and I think we're going to maybe have you do a short reading to begin with.
Yeah.
Would you like to do that now?
Yeah, should we do that? Why don't? Shall I read it? I'll read for about 5 minutes or so, or
okay.
I'll read the first few pages of the book, and then we could get into it and talk about it a bit more. Yeah, okay. Great. Okay, so yeah, just let me see. I'll read you the first 3 or 4 pages of the book, just to give you a sense of how it starts. First, though, I'll show you Anna's first illustration. That's the first scene of the book of Silas meeting a wolf on the path home from school. So yeah, as the story begins, Silas is having a bad time. He's being bullied at school, and it's because of his speech. So Silas can't find the words that he needs, or he can't get his words out in the way that he needs to. So he's very quiet. He never speaks at school, and he is being bullied because of that. And as the story begins, he's just on his way home from school. He walks home along a cycle path, and he has this strange encounter. So there was a wolf on the cycle path. Silas walked along the path every day after school. It ran beside a patch of woodland. It was not the fastest way home, but Silas used it because he liked being by himself, and the cycle path was always empty. Until today. The wolf stood in the middle of the path, watching him. Its head was as high as his chest. He had never been so close to such a large, wild animal. He did not know what to do. He had seen wolves in a wildlife park once. They had been pale, silent shapes slipping between the trees, too far away to seem dangerous or even quite real. But this wolf was real. He could hear it panting. He could see its wet red tongue and its long white teeth. At the sight, a chill crawled all the way from his shoulders to the base of his spine, and gooseflesh tingled on his arms. His heart beat hard in his chest. He told himself he ought to back away carefully. He ought to run. But if I run, he thought, the wolf might chase me. Maybe I should flap my arms and shout so that it goes away. Wild animals are usually nervous of people, aren't they? But the wolf did not look nervous. It looked hungry. Its grey eyes were fixed on Silas, just waiting for him to start running. The narrow path was like a trap, with a brick wall on one side and a wire fence on the other. He held his breath. He kept very still, and then the wolf took a step forwards. Silas nearly ran. He nearly cried out in fright and fell over backwards. But he did not do this, not quite, because he had noticed something. The wolf was walking oddly. It was limping, barely touching the ground with one of its front paws. When it was almost within reach, it held up the paw as if it wanted to shake hands. Silas knelt down beside the wolf. The paw was larger than both his hands together. It had thick grey fur, hard black claws, and big rough pads. The smell was strong, but not bad. It was earthy and musky, and it reminded Silas of something. For a moment he could not tell what, but then he knew. The wolf smelled like the scent that rises from dry ground at the end of a hot day when the rain begins to fall. He moved the pads apart and the wolf growled softly in its throat. Silas let go in a hurry, but the wolf whined and offered him the paw again. Being as slow and gentle as he could, he grasped the paw and tried to see what the matter was. Yes, he thought, something was lodged there, a metallic glint deep between the pads. The wolf gave a snarl as he eased the paw open, but it let him coax the object free. It was an old brass drawing pin, battered and bloody. It must have been digging into the paw at every step. The wolf circled away and took a few steps along the path, no longer limping. Then, all at once, it was alert, lifting its head and swivelling its ears as if it sensed danger. It prowled along the fence until it came to a place where the wire was torn at the bottom, making an entrance into the woodland. The grey eyes locked with Silas's eyes for a moment, and the wolf wriggled through the hole. The patch of woodland had perhaps 20 trees, with the backs of houses showing through the branches. There was nowhere for a large animal to go, but as Silas watched, the wolf crouched in the undergrowth and disappeared from view. Silas stood at the fence, wondering if anything else was going to happen. But there was no movement among the trees. It was as if the wolf had never been there. That must be the end, he thought. It had been a brief, strange meeting, and now it was time for him to go home. Then he heard a voice behind him. "Good afternoon," it said. "This is a fortunate meeting." A fox was sitting on the path, a neat creature with a sharp face and dark red fur. It gazed up at him. Beside it sat a second fox, larger and paler, with green eyes set close together. As Silas watched, more foxes appeared on the path behind the small dark fox and the large pale one. Soon there were 20 foxes sitting and looking at him. The dark fox spoke. "My name is Reynard," he said. "This is my sister Saffron, and these are our sisters and brothers, and you are a very lucky young man. You see, a dangerous animal is on the loose. We're tracking it down to make sure no one gets hurt." The dark fox had large golden eyes. His voice was friendly and calm, the kind of voice you want to trust. "I have a feeling you've seen the animal we're searching for," Reynard said. "And I have an idea you're going to help us." Silas did not answer. He was a little surprised that the fox was talking, but not so much as you might think. A talking fox did not seem so strange when it was here in front of him, gazing up with friendly golden eyes. Hearing words come from a fox was really no more strange than hearing them come from a human being. He wanted to answer, but the words would not come. This often happened, especially at school. People spoke to him and waited for a reply, but the words he meant to say got stuck. It had happened today, All through break time, Richie Long from his class had followed him around the playground, loudly asking him what his name was. Several other children had joined in, too. They knew his name, of course, but they thought it was funny to make him say it. In the end, he had tried to tell them to leave him alone, but something in him had seized up, and the words had not come out. Richie Long and the others had laughed and called him the names they always called him. Silas and Silent Silas and just Silence. Silence, he thought. He could not deny that the name suited him. He never tried to speak when he could keep quiet instead. And now, in front of Reynard the fox, his words failed again and he said nothing. The pale fox, with green eyes, snarled and crouched as if she might spring. Now, Saffron, Reynard said. I'm sure this young man will be only too glad to help us once he understands the situation. You see, young sir, we're searching for a wolf. He doesn't belong here. He's much too big and wild. He's lost, and we only want to help him. So, please, won't you show us where he is? And I'll stop there.